talk today about how to compare fractions that either have like numerators or like denominators, meaning they have either the same numerator in a different denominator or a same denominator in a different numerator. We'll start with the part with the denominators. Again, when we're thinking about these, numerators are that top number of a fraction. They're the number of parts that we're talking about out of the total whole. Okay, so I'm talking about 3 out of 4. I'm talking about only 3 of those parts. That bottom number is the denominator, and it's the total number of parts that the whole has been broken into. Again, we'll start with the denominator because it's a little bit easier to start there, and then we'll branch ourselves up into the numerator. Okay. So in here, I want to have numbers that have the same denominator, the same bottom number. So in this case, let's start with 2 quarters, and let's compare that to 1 quarter. Okay. So what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to break my number line up into 4 parts. Again, I'll start by doing it with the top and bottom, where I have this part here, and this here, and this here. And again, if I'm talking with the same, oh, went too far on that one there. If for some reason on here I have the same bottom number, I can actually draw this all the way through. Okay. Again, right over here. Now I've got 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts. Here, this here would be 1 quarter. This would be 2 quarters, and this would be 3 quarters, 3 out of 4. And this here, 1 whole would be 4 quarters, 4 out of 4. Okay. And here I can easily see that the one that is greater is the one closer to the number 1 whole, is going to be 2 quarters. This one here is further along and closer to 1 than 1 quarter is. In this case, I could make this greater than. You go back and change this here. So instead of doing it where I'm looking at 2 quarters, I might decide here that I'm gonna, instead of looking at quarters, I might decide to go through and let's go and do, let's do 3/8 compared to 5/8. Here again, I need to divide it into 8 parts. So now I got 4 parts here. Divide these again in half. And now I've got 8 parts. I've got 1/8, 2/8. And I don't have to label each one, but I'm going to just to make sure that I get my fractions correct. I'm going to make sure I know exactly where I'm supposed to go. 5/8, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 8. And again, 1 whole being 8 out of 8, 1 whole. Here again, I can see that 5/8 is here and 3/8 is here. 5/8 is clearly closer to 1, and I would make this and do that symbol where it's where again my symbol is pointing at the 3 out of 8 with the open side towards 5/8. It would say 3/8 is less than 5/8. So any way that you're looking at it with the denominator, the number that had on top, your however many parts your numerator is going to be the one that is larger. Here we're now going to look at our numerator when we have the same numerator. Let's do one that's going to be relatively easy here. We're going to go with where we have 3's. This here being 3/4, or 3/4, and then we're going to look at 3/8. I'm going to look in, instead of actually doing this here in red, I'm going to do this one in blue so we can visually see the difference between the two. I'll start with my quarters again. On the top, I have to divide this into 4 whole parts. I'm, again, only going to use the top part for my quarters because I want to make sure that I can visually see where they need to go. I know that that is, and here I'm only going to label where 3/4 is. 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters. Now I have to go on to do 3/8. So here again, I'm going to go down and do my 8ths. And I know that this here again, I have that trick where I can divide my 8ths, do that in half. Okay, come down here and then divide these in half. And finally, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. This being 8/8. And then on the top, this here is 4/4, those two being equal. And we'll talk more about that later, what it means when they're equal. Here, I can go and count up 1, 2, 3, and I know that this is 3/8. Visually, again, I can see on here, sorry, on the top I wrote this as 3/8, I meant to say 3/4, my apologies. So in here, I can look through and go, which one is closer to 1 whole? That's this one here. This one here is further along, it's closer to the 1 whole. And I know then that this here is greater than 3/8. What you end up finding is that if your numerator is the same, you need to look at your denominator. If your denominator is a smaller number, it's going to end up being larger. I'll give you another example here. It sounds almost kind of counterintuitive, meaning it doesn't quite make too much sense. You go, wait, why is it that the number that is smaller ends up being larger? Let's try this here. I'm going to try this with 2/3, and we're going to compare that to 2/10. Okay. Here again, I can see that this number here is 3 parts. This number here is 10 parts. Okay. And if I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, like the 10, it seems like it should be larger. Well, it means that I've made actually more cuts. So my piece gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Here, if I make 10 parts, I got this one here. So I've got this in half. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5/10. I don't need to go any further because I know I've got tenths here. But I only need 2 of them. Here, I've got to do 2/3 though, and I need to drive this into 3 parts. Somewhere roughly around here, and then roughly around here, 2/3. Because thirds are larger pieces, each of these thirds here, this is 1/3. If I look at this 1/10 is only this small, right? Is a really tiny piece. So when our number on the bottom is larger, the piece is smaller. So keep that in mind when you go about comparing your fractions, okay? Give that a shot as you're working today when you're comparing fractions with like numerators or like denominators. Put them on a number line so you can see it as opposed to just trying to go and use the greater than or less than symbol. Make sure you can visually prove that one is greater than the other or if they're equal.